Hey everybody, Ben for the Bonehead podcast, and welcome to Norse Team Development. We're looking at every team available in Blood Bowl, whether it's Team of Legend, Rulebook, Spike Magazine, whatever, and we're looking at how to develop your team. Specifically, we're looking at every single player type and looking at what skills to give them and why and in what order. Now, the Norse roster starts out with a ton of strength, a ton of frenzy, and a ton of block. And it just gets better from here. So let's have a look at the Norse team. And talking about a team that starts out with a lot of frenzy and a lot of strength, we're going to kick off things with the most exciting piece in this roster. Potentially not the best, because the roster is actually... Man, this roster is loaded with excellent players. But the Yeti. The Yeti is, I think, one of the better big guys. It's got a great set of skills, a pretty good stat line. The fact that it's got frenzy to begin with and claws means that it's a very effective piece in certain matchups. Mighty Blow as a starting skill is very good against almost every team, but Claw can just be doubly good. It can take you that cheeky 10 plus 11 plus armor down to a sweet 8 plus roll and gives you the opportunity to take Mighty Blow at a later point to just pile on with the casualty roll. So looking at the Yeti skills, Yetis are big guys. This big guy starts with good strength but no combat skills and frenzy, so it might tend to get itself into a little bit of trouble. But the Yeti as a piece is a real threat on the tabletop. It's going to force your opponent to play around it, and it's going to force your opponent to just respect the Yeti. And also with its skills, it might get a cheeky couple of bits of really profitable removal as well. So the Yeti is just upside really when it comes to being a big guy. However, it is still a big guy, and you are going to be throwing some rolls of 2-die blocks with no combat skill. And it's got loner, so it's going to let you down a couple of times. So on top of that, big guys don't tend to level up all that quickly. Now, the fact it's got claws is pretty useful. It might sneak a couple of extra casualty points in there, and a couple of extra SPP can mean the difference between game 5 and game 7 when it comes to leveling up a big guy. But we always kind of have to start with this point. On any big guy, generally speaking, and especially in the case of a frenzy strength 5 claws piece, block is the correct skill. I'm really sorry to tell you, it's very boring to say this, but staying the course, waiting for 12 SPP and taking block on that sweet general double is the right thing to do with the Yeti. You will not find a better skill. You will not find a better path to take. Now that's fine if you're playing digitally and you can get in 4 or 5 games a week, because that means in a week, 2 weeks, you've got 12 SPP, you've swung those casualties, you've swung that MVP and you're there. But in the real world, in tabletop land, if you're attending a normal league that has 8 games and 2 games a month, it's going to take a long time. Potentially more than 1 season to get your Yeti all the way to 12 SPP. And if you're playing in a shorter league, you might just want to spend your SPP. So there's kind of 2 options at this point. If you get to 3 SPP with the Yeti, you can take a random. Now, I don't recommend it, because the difference between a chosen skill at 6 and a random skill at 3 can be the difference between a skill that you like and nothing at all, basically. So even though you can take a random strength at a 3 SPP, and there's some great options for you there, they're all on the screen on the left hand side, you are much better off just waiting for a couple of extra casualties, waiting for that MVP, for at least to have the choice. Now, when you do get to 6 SPP and you do have that choice, you are spoiled for choice. So there's kind of 2 paths with the Yeti. The one obvious one is removal. The boy's strength 5 frenzy and has claw. It wants to hurt things. You're going to be throwing 4 die blocks most of the time. 2 dice with frenzy, 2 dice as your second block. So there's kind of a couple of different things you can do here. The obvious path, and the reason it's obvious is just because Mighty Blow Claw is still a great combination. They don't stack the way they used to, but Claw breaks armor on an 8+ forever, unless someone actually has Iron Hard Skin, and then you can apply that Mighty Blow to the follow-up, which means 56% of the time, once you've broken the armor with Mighty Blow on the casualty roll, it's a KO. That's brutal. That means that 1 in every 2 armor breaks the Yeti makes is going to be removal. And you want to be, punching with the Yeti every turn. So, I mean, breaking the armor on an 8+, that's what, 40-something% chance. So let's say you knock a guy down every turn. That means on average you're going to be going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 hits that drop a dude and break the armor. You could be removing 2 to 3 guys per game. That's awesome. Now, you could spike and do better, you can absolutely flub it and do worse. But when it comes to Mighty Blow and Claw, it's not a bad combination. There's an additional piece here that Claw is really useful against targets with armor of 10+. If you're playing in a league where you've got Skaven, Elves, Stunties, then Claw can feel a little bit useless. Having Mighty Blow to just break that cheeky armor roll, it's great fun. Especially if you're up against something like a Snotling. You've got Frenzy, your Strength 5, you're going to be rolling 3, followed by 3, so 6 die block. You're probably going to drop that Snotling, and then having Mighty Blow to break their armor on a roll of a 5 is awesome, and a really good way for you to continue making casualty points. So actually taking Mighty Blow is a really good one. Now, if you're using your Yeti as a support piece, then Guard is the right skill to take. Block is best, Mighty Blow is the second rated one, Guard will be the third. And the reason for that is your Yeti can go on the line, you've got Guard, which is going to give +1 strength to your boys who are standing next to the Yeti, and your boys on this team are strength 3, no negatrait, block pieces. So giving that extra bit of strength is more often than not going to mean that your Yeti on the line can merrily make a 2-die block. Or it can just give a 2-die block to the guy with block there, a 2-die block to the guy with block there, and then if you've got something else, then if there's someone still standing, Yeti with strength 5, plus a guy there, plus a guy there, that's strength 7, which is a 3-die block. Followed up by a poorly placed frenzy block of 2 dice, but hey, that's still 5 dice you're throwing at a guy. So Guard, also an excellent skill. I'm going to put Brawler in there as well, because Brawler is basically the poor man's block. I love Brawler. I'm a Black Orc coach, so it's better than people think. It's worse than it should be, but it is pretty good because it's going to help you to just stay alive. It's a 2.5 or 2 1/3 die block when you're making a 2-die block with Brawler. So it is not a bad way to make consistent hits. It's not as juicy as having Mighty Blow, and it's not as always effective as having a Guard piece, but Brawler is also not a bad choice. So top 4 skills, if you can wait, take Block. If you want to murder stuff, take Mighty Blow. If you want to help your friends murder stuff, take Guard. And if you just want to be consistently playing better, Brawler is not a bad choice too. But you've got a couple of extra skills there for tier 2. Stand Firm is useful. This is a frenzy piece. Multiple Block is also really useful. Now, you might be thinking, I'm only strength 5, I'm going to need some Guard pieces. Very true. You've got reasonable strength access on this roster in the way of Ulfwereners and Berserkers and stuff, so there might be a bit of Guard kind of wandering around. But the beautiful thing about multiple block is that it will get you out of frenzy. So there may be a time where you don't necessarily want to take a frenzy block and you've got the strength to be able to take that. Multiple block is going to switch off frenzy for that turn. So it's quite a useful thing to do there. And break tackle is always great at strength 5 because you're adding +2 to a dodge roll once per turn. In the land of doubles, block is king, and then if you really wait it out to take dodge, that can be pretty fun. A Blodge Yeti is great too. So, in summary, the Yeti is there to scare people and to murder people, and by the power of friendship, help others murder people too. And the kind of friends that the Yeti hikes to help with murdering would be the Norse Ulfwerener. Now, the Ulfwerener is, without a shadow of a doubt, one of my favourite pieces in Blood Bowl. Movement 6, Strength 4, Frenzy. It's just awesome. Really good at punching and creating gaps in the line, but just a wonderful linebacker. Like, this is like a very hairy, psychotic Terry Tate in your backfield, and you get 2 of them. So absolutely love the Norse Ulfwerener. The only thing the Norse Ulfwerener is missing is a little skill called Block. So can you guess what I'm going to recommend you take first time on this player? Block is the best skill you can put on him. Good on defense, good on offense, good for hitting stuff, good for stopping you from getting hit. Next, right? So we're going to assume you take Block first because Block is the correct thing to do, but there are some other great skills. And fortunately, what we just talked about with the Yeti around having it be a removal piece or a support piece also carries over here with the Ulfwerener. Now, having a Guard on your Ulf at movement 6 means that actually he can buddy up with another piece. So if you've got a Berserker on your team or you've got a second Ulfwerener, then actually being able to tie those up and buddy them together
Could you try again?
I'm trying. Will give you more profitable blocks elsewhere. So having guard is great on your Ulf. But these things are... They're not the cruise missiles that a Minotaur is, but once they've got block, they're not far off. So Mighty Blow is going to help you with more removal. If your Norse team can get a cheeky Mighty Blow Yeti and then a couple of Mighty Blow block Norse Ulf Warriors, then you're really starting to pile on those dice, and every time those dice hit, you are more likely to stun a guy, to KO a guy, to just keep that removal out. Norse have always kind of been described as a bit of a glass cannon team. I don't know so much about the glass, but I do know very much about the cannon, and having this lad be block Mighty Blow is just awesome. It's just a mobile blocker. Guard is good. Stand Firm is going to help you because this piece does have Frenzy as well. But yeah, okay, Tackle. Tackle is insanely useful. And this is the tough one about the Norse team, because I find that you've got the Yeti as your Frenzy removal piece, you've got your Berserker as your mobile safety piece, and you've got the Ulf Warrior kind of sitting halfway in between. So the Ulf Warrior can be an all-star. Edge 4+ means it's not so great at the ball handling. Strength 4 means it's wonderful at murdering stuff. Having an Ulf with Tackle is just fantastic. Block is better all of the time. But if you are in a league with dodgy, stunty, great teams, then having a Tackle Ulf is just worth its weight in gold, because throwing 4 dice with Tackle in a backfield is just going to be fantastic, and there's nothing they can do to escape it. Block is better, but a block Tackle piece in a dodge or stunty heavy league is going to be amazing. A block Mighty Blow piece in a blocker or combat heavy league is going to be amazing. So you can kind of tack your skills based on what else is going on, and if you're in a all-comer situation, so kind of planning out a tournament build, then block is going to always be good. Tackle is going to be useful on at least one of your players, so whether it's an Ulf or a Berserker, then having a Tackle piece is going to be so useful. If you're running a tournament or a blind set, then I would say that the Ulf block Tackle is going to be just super useful. And then you've also got the potential of Pro as well. I mean, the dream Ulf Warrior with block, Tackle, Mighty Blow, and you've got 2 of them. They're there to be your safeties, and they're there to just strike when and if, just to murder things. So if you get doubles, if you're saving that long, then actually a Blodge Ulf is fantastic. Sidestep is good too, but realistically, take block, and then any 2 from that left-hand side, that player is going to be feared by the rest of your league. Ooh, the Valkyrie. So the Valkyrie was a brand new positional to this version of the team, kind of replacing the thrower and the catcher all in one go. The Valk has got a really interesting set of skills. No combat skill, just all sorts of other stuff. So pass and catch makes you think, am I supposed to be an all-star throwing, catching, running play with this guy? No, you're not. The Valkyrie is there to be a runner. The Valkyrie is a runner. But it's also a runner that comes with 2 tier 2 combat skills in Strip Ball and Dauntless. So the Valk will be able to just, every now and again, 1-die block a big chunky boy. It is going to be able to just strip the ball out of a sure that won't work, or out of a protected ball carrier. So the Valk has kind of got some lovely little spicy secondary abilities, but I don't think you need to worry too much about those secondary abilities, when really what this is a movement 7 runner with benefits. Okay, it's a runner with benefits is the Valkyrie, and because of that you get a massive assortment of skills that you can take. Now the obvious one is a little skill called block, which is fantastic, but this is where the kind of decision tree diverges a bit for the Valk. You've got the standard runner build, okay, block, sure hands, dodge. Those 3 skills in any combination is going to make a Valkyrie a real solid scoring threat all of the time. Block is going to give you a nice bit of safety and a protection. Dodge is going to give you a nice bit of protection and mobility. Sure hands is going to give you a nice bit of protection and consistency. So they're really solid skills. I recommend taking dodge first for the Valk. You've got a ton of block everywhere else, and dodge is going to keep you alive and give you that 3++, that you're gonna need to kind of break free and try and go for a score. It's also the only player on this roster that's got movement 7, and it's the only player on this roster that's got easy access to agility. So taking dodge first on the Valkyrie is a really solid thing to do. Alternatively, you take block, and I think we're talking Brexit margin between those two. It really depends on your playstyle. I like dodge because it gives me the option to move, and very much like my argument for my argument with trips when it comes to the Dark Elf thrower man who's got dump off. I don't want my ball carrier to get hit, so having block is less advantageous to me in my playstyle as having dodge, because dodge means I can free myself up and not get hit, or take that extra square through a bad zone to try and just get that, 1 in 9 success. So dodge is going to keep you more mobile, block is going to keep you safer. Now, because you've got Dauntless and because you've got Strip Ball, there is another angle here with a Valkyrie being a ball hawk. Now, what I mean by that is somebody who's going to just hit the opponent's ball carrier and pop the ball free. You've got Strip Ball already, you've got Dauntless, so if they're wandering around with a strength 4 ball carrier, like an Amazon blocker, then the Valk is awesome. And if you give them Wrestle, you've got a triple threat. You can one die anybody, basically forever. You've got Strip Ball, so all you really need to do is not roll a skull at this point. And if you take Wrestle, even if you roll a both down on your one die block, that ball is still coming out. So a Norse Valkyrie, simply with Wrestle, can be a very effective ball hawk. It's real tough though, because if you've got an angle on the ball, then an Ulfwerener is going to do the job just as well. And your Berserker's not bad in a pinch either. And where your Valkyrie is kind of your only angle to have a bit of speed, or at least a bit of agility, then the dodge, block, sure hands angle. I mean, dodge and block should be the first 2 skills you take on a Valk. Unless you are purposefully designing that ball hawk, then Wrestle is fantastic as well. So, it's a tough one. There's a fun little secondary combination here that I do want to talk about. Yeah, you can take guard. Guard's great everywhere. Break tackle is going to mean that your Valkyrie is dodging on a 2+ once per round. That is incredibly useful. That is a poor man's plus agility. It is a double, so it's going to take you a little while, but it's quite a fun bit of tech, especially if you're kind of brewing up a tournament roster where you can stack a double or something like that. That can be quite entertaining. But back to core Norse Valkyrie. She's now a strength 3, movement 7 blodger that also has Strip Ball and Dauntless. You're in a really great place. But you've also got pass and catch. Catch is going to be great because you can get the hand off, and then I've got my movement 7 blodger wandering around. That's great stuff. But pass, you can also potentially do a couple of things here using the pass skills. Pass 3+ is not the best, it's not the worst. On the ball is going to speed you up at the beginning of a drive. Okay, just having those 3 squares is great. It is the kind of skill that's only going to pay off twice per game. It can be useful if you're playing against a throwing offense as well, but I love OTB for a hyper fast scoring threat team. Norse are not that, but OTB is still a really useful skill. Nerves, however, might be worth considering for your Valk. If you find that one of your Valks has developed into a bit of a scoring threat, maybe they've got blodge already and they're trying to score more, you can build your second Valkyrie up to be your Wrestle Ball Hawk, but potentially have nerves to be able to just, I'm going to collect the ball with that one and move it up, chuck them into a situation where Wrestle's going to keep me alive, and then I can just cheeky 3++ into a 3++ catch. Not bad. You can also take accurate if you want to kind of try and create a throwing offense when it comes to it, but the Valkyrie is just one skill away from being a brilliant player, and that skill can be block or dodge. It's entirely up to you. I'm a dodge guy, but block is never bad. Talking of block being never bad, the Norse Berserker starts off with block, and also having that little bit of jump up action means that even when you frenzy block yourself into the ground, that ground is just going to push you right back up again, which is a pretty useful combination, especially when you can frenzy block from the ground with the Norse Berserker. It is very aggravating. Now, the Berserker is kind of laid out like a bit of a blitzer, but does have the downside of having frenzy. But with this new Norse roster, where your Valks tend to be the runner, they tend to be your ball carrier, the Ulfs tend to be your linebackers or your kind of blocker blitzer combo, your Berserkers can be your kind of mid-range blitzer player. and they're very good at it. So starting with block, starting with frenzy means that you think, oh, these guys are going to be killers. They can be. They are always going to be underrated by your opponent. It takes a while to learn that the Norse Berserker is just a lineman with frenzy, is actually significantly more. I've been victim of this, and Trips hates me for this because I don't like this positional most of the time because I don't see it as much of a threat. But on the board, its movement, its agility, its jump up is just a really solid combination. You just find that it's just a very useful piece. So when you're skilling it up, make it even more useful. Now, if you've got a roster where you've got your ults to be your hitting removal pieces, then you can use your Berserker as your blitzer piece. So we're looking at skills like Tackle are a fantastic piece for the Norse Berserker to be a sweeper. If you've got an Ulf with Tackle, then your Berserker can be a bit more of a removal piece. But the fact that they get early access to Guard is going to be really great too. If you've got them in pairs, right, ignore the pairs. There's 4, 5 frenzy pieces on this roster. Having a mobile piece of Guard is going to save a player's life more than you think. Just being able to move that Berserker over here, get him into the scrum, and allow the Ulfwerener to 4-die block, the Yeti to 6-die block, the other Berserker to make a profitable block, or just put the Berserker there for a couple of muggles to punch things. Guard is fantastic on the Berserker. It's already got block. It's already in a really good place. Or you double down with your removal, chuck a bit of Tackle on it to be a great piece of safety. Or that skill, Mighty Blow, which is just a brilliant piece as well. I do recommend Guard on Norse Berserker for 2 reasons. One, it enables the rest of your team. The Berserker is already a really good piece. But also, you get the effect. There's a little thing in Blood Bowl called the Guard Bubble. It warps the game. It warps its space around it as if it was a super heavy atom. It's just this little suck of everybody is now stronger, everybody now is weaker on the other side, which can turn a situation where you've got 2 1-die blocks into a situation where you've got 2 4-die blocks. It's just, it can be filthy, and the Berserker is fast enough and already good enough to do that. Plus, if you get your Berserkers with Guard, you can help out your Strip Ball Dauntless piece with the Valkyrie, you can help out your Strength 4 Frenzy piece with your Ulfwerener, your Standard Lineman with block, or the Yeti with just all the skills. So, top tip for me, I like that. However, there's nothing wrong with just making your Berserker your star player by giving him Mighty Blow, or making him a utility player by giving him Tackle. You can also go the Dauntless, Stand Firm Pro route. None of them are bad skills. Dauntless is quite fun, but are you just making a worse Valkyrie at that point? It's potential, but with Frenzy, I mean, Troll Slayers aren't bad, right? And at that point, if you give him Dauntless, he's basically just a faster Troll Slayer with worse armor. Again, not a bad positional. That's why that's on the list. Stand Firm is going to keep him safe from just frenzying himself off the board, and Pro is just going to... Pro is underrated in this edition. That 3+ to change 1 dice is so good, especially with a player like this who's making frenzy blocks, because you can put yourself in a situation where you take a 2-die up, or you frenzy yourself into a 2-die up, and you roll Skull Push. 3+, re-roll that skull, 10 times out of 9 it's going to be a POW. Debatable. Doubles, dodge, fantastic. Sidestep is just an upgraded version of Stand Firm for this player. But the Berserker, for defense, tackle, offense, Guard, Murder, Mighty Blow. So it is a great piece. You can't really go wrong. The Beer Boar is a great new addition to the Norse team, and I've got to say, some excellent game design with the fact that it's got no skills. It's got no general skill access. So when you get to 3 SPP, you can do nothing with it. When you get to 6 XPP, you can choose no skill, but you can take a random agility. There's only 2 skills I think worth taking on a Norse Beer Boar, and I don't know why you'd even want to put a skill on a Norse Beer Boar. It can be fun, I guess, if you get to 6 SPP somehow to take a random agility just for the fun of it. It's only 10k, right? No, it's 20k at that point. Ooh, that's the price of 2 Beer Boars. Maybe not. Look, Sneaky Git's going to be great. The Beer Boar, generally speaking, is there. I know you've got the, like, jump up boys, it's going to be fine ability. But really, the Beer Boar is just a tax write-off. It's a 20k player, which is 30k cheaper than your lineman. It means that in your tournament rules pack, in your starting league roster, whatever, you can just afford a better selection of players. The downside is you get one piece that's got no hands and no skills. So Sneaky Git can be brilliant for it. A running little blitzing fowler running around. He's going to get sent off because he's going to die anyway. Not bad. Sidestep is also really good. This is a really fun thing about the beer boars. Whenever you punch a beer boar, because they're strength 1, dodge, titchy, you just assume that they have sidestep. They don't. They're not a nobbler. They're not a snotling, even though they're as useful as one, or less useful because, you know, no hands. Giving them sidestep would not be the worst thing in the world. But realistically, the beer boar is there to come on, to inspire people, then to get murdered, and really just as an accounting thing with a cool model. And that brings us to the last piece on the roster, which is arguably the best. Now, the Norse Lineman in the new edition are drunkards, which means that they are rushing on a 3+, which means that they are, for all intents and purposes, dead to me, because I like to rush around taking go for it just because I don't know, I have a problem. In fact, if you go back and watch one of the first games we recorded for Blood Bowl 2020, I piloted dwarves against goblins, and dude, those dwarves, they were shifting, right? They made Gimli look like he had one leg. It was great. But when it comes to the Norse Lineman, they're movement 6 now, okay? They're not movement 6, 7, 8. They are movement 6, and you will do 6 squares. So there's definitely that to bear in mind. However, they're also 50k, and they start with the best skill in the game, which is block. So the Norse Lineman is just excellent, and it's backed up by, as we've seen, a smorgasbord of brilliant players. So what could you want on a lineman like this? Who lives in a house like this? So on the double side, guard is going to be great for you, dodge is going to be great for you, sneaky git if you're going to be the kind of player that goes around kicking stuff. Really cool, right? All loads of good stuff. What you're going to do with your Norse Lineman is, generally speaking, take a random general. And if you look to the left of the screen, you will see why. Because a block sure hands piece is great. Because a block kick piece is great. Because a dirty player piece is not bad either. Tackle block is wonderful. Dauntless block is wonderful. Frenzy block is wonderful. Those are the best 6 skills. There are other skills. Fend is annoying. Shadowing is a dead skill, I'm not going to lie. Yep, sure. But Strip Ball is going to be useful. When it comes to your Norse Lineman, you've already got block. The lineman's job is there to be on the line and support the Yeti, to get punch and punch back. If you take a random general, what you're going to find is that Norse Lineman is kind of going to brew up into another positional as well. You get kick on a blocker, he becomes your extra safety in the backfield. You got to deploy him off the line, but you get the choice to then split the field. You pin them back, you bring them close. It's up to you at that point, and that guy's then a movement 6 block piece. You put him in the middle of the field, generally he's covering most of the threat. Dirty player is going to be fun too, but sure hands is going to give you someone to pick up the ball and hand it off to one of your Valkyries. Tackle, you've got another supporting safety. Dauntless, Frenzy, you've got somebody who's just there ready to suicide block. In fact, if you get Frenzy, you want to start prioritizing guard even heavier in your roster, because why would you not want to make 4 die blocks with block? It's just so good. So the lineman's job is just to get punched about. Make some great blocks in concert with opportunity and guard where it's available, and take a random lineman and fulfill its destiny. Sure hands is great. Tackle gives you another safety. Dauntless Strip Ball gives you a worse Valkyrie. But a worse Valkyrie is still better than a standard lineman. So the Norse Lineman, literally, the only way is up. Okay, so Norse are just a brilliant team. They're tier 1 for a reason. They start at a really good spot. They don't have any Edge 2+ pieces. They don't have any movement 8 pieces. What they do have is just a whole host of brilliant players. The Norse team is so loaded that you could remove any one of the positionals from this team, and I don't think it would be any worse. Awesome roster. It's got a lot of block. As you develop your team, you're gonna get more block and a bit of guard and a bit of mighty blow, and it is just gonna be fantastic. Norse are up there with lizards in the teams I hate to play against, and hopefully from this video you can kind of start to see why. Anyway, let me know what you think. Let me know if there's something I've missed, if there's something you do differently, or something that you think is terrible. This is just here to be a useful starting spot. Anyway, I'm going to disappear. Thank you very much for watching. We'll be back soon with more Blood Bowl content. Happy blocking.